Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Inside Unreal, a show where we learn, explore everything Unreal Engine. Missed you guys last week, but I'm glad to be back, and I'm glad to be here with a couple of really cool folks that are coming to talk about Black Eye 2.0. They'll be able to describe it a lot better than I will, so let's go ahead and get those folks introduced. Hey guys, how you doing?
Doing great.
Awesome. Yeah, we have a couple folks here. We'll start with Adam. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Let folks know who you are.
Hey, everybody. So my name is Adam Myhill. I've been building camera systems for a long time. Started in video games in the 90s, worked at Electronic Arts for 16 years, built the camera system in the Frostbite engine. Gerald and I built Cinemachine in Unity, and I've worked as a film DP. So basically my entire life has been around cameras. And we're going to show you Black Eye 2, which is the best camera system we've built so far.
Absolutely. And Gerald?
Hey guys, my name is Gerald Orban. I'm the CTO and the Master of Quaternions here at Black Eye Technologies. In the games industry, not quite as long as Adam, but I've always loved graphics and rendering and making tools to help developers and everyone else's lives easier. And when it came to Cinemachine, that kind of opened my eyes to realize we need good camera tools to help people make great cinematics in games. So we built Cinemachine, and then a couple of years later, maybe a decade or so, we got the band back together, and we're here talking Black Eye 2.0.
Amazing. Yeah, I've had the pleasure of having a few different conversations with you folks before now, and saw a little bit of a sneak peek way back when, and I'm really excited to see a lot more hopefully today with Black Eye 2.0. But for folks who aren't familiar, what is Black Eye? What is Black Eye 2? What are we here to talk about today?
So Black Eye's a camera system, and it's a camera manager. It's a way to follow and to look at. There's proceduralism in it, so you can automate some of your shots. You can what we call hybrid, where you keyframe things, but then you use the proceduralism to fill it in. It's a very powerful camera system for cinematics and for gameplay. And
just building on that, you start thinking about cameras at a higher level of detail. You're thinking like a director and a cinematographer instead of having to worry about how your cameras are position, rotation, and field of view. They're a lot smarter than that, and I think it does a lot more service to the game, the project you're working on, when you describe the camera systems like that, and everyone gets to use it that way.
Yeah, so building on what Gerald said, Black Eye looks through the lens. And it creates a relationship between the camera and the subject that exists in real life, but doesn't exist in CG, or that relationship's really primitive. So for cutscenes, there's that lag between how a camera follows something. There's all of this mojo that happens in real life that you have to manually keyframe in. And these tools came out of frustration. We have been devs for a long time, and in a lot of engines, the camera is here's the camera, and it's nothing, or it's a very basic camera with an arm and a spring and a collision system, that's it. And everybody ends up writing, these big giant balls of code that are fragile. What ifs are terrifying. Well, what if we? And it's, oh my God, it's gonna we can't. And we wanted to throw all that away, and we wanted to make it so well, yeah, what if we did change where the orbit offset is when we're walking next to the wall? Or what if we just had the camera swing around to look at something like that? These should be things that you do in a handful of mouse clicks on the fly, and not okay, well, we'll write a thing up and we'll talk to an engineer and they'll get it in next week and we'll see if it works. Those days are over.
Yeah, no, that actually preempted one of the questions that I was gonna throw at you next. Is why Black Eye? What was the impetus to create this? I mean, it sounds like a long tenure in games was definitely a part of it, and I'm sure the other side of it. We kind of mentioned this in one of our previous talks, but cameras feel like one of those things that is really simple, or it should be. Like it's simple in theory, and then once you actually start getting in there and start realizing like all the intricacies and dependencies and little things, like how does the camera detect the collision of something that it should be colliding in versus the things that it should not be in? Like, I mean, there's so many layers that build up on top of one another. Go ahead and explain why and how we ended up here with Black Eye.
So the why was like pain. Like honestly,
Yeah, yeah.
it was
Yeah.
like pure frustration. So the very first exposure to cameras that I had in a video game world was sit next to the programmer and we'll punch in numbers and then we'll hit compile and then we'll go through the front end music that you've heard 400 times. And then we try to recreate the scenario where the thing you want to tune is, and it's not quite right. And you're like, okay, let's try 5.6. You punch that number, like these horrible iteration loops, right? That's where it started. And it was like it was kind of a galvanizing moment. I'm gonna not that happened. And it's like, this has to change. Like we can't do it like this. And
I
then
mean, like for me, it was like I was the guy who wrote the spaghetti ball of code for camera systems. It's several thousand lines of code, and anytime someone on the art side is like, "Hey, change this thing," I'm like, "Okay, I'll get back to you in 24 to 48 hours." That felt miserable to me, and I know they were not pleased about it. And it wasn't until like I don't know, I met at Blackbird Interactive. I'm like, "Hey, there's a better way of doing this that puts more power back in artists' hands, or designers, or anyone who wants to make and do camera work."
so when
Yeah.
Gerald and I built Cine Machine, we did a little under an hour and a half of cinematics for a game, Homeworld, Deserts of Karak. And the vehicles were all procedurally, um, they had particle systems and suspension, and we didn't keyframe all the vehicles. So an hour and a half of cinematics. And I'm not making this up, it sounds like it's a fable, but it's true. One of the designers near ship said, let's increase the speed of all the vehicles by 15% for gameplay reasons. And those were the vehicles that logic was driving all of our cutscenes. Now that would normally be like either a hard no, or like throw yourself into traffic, definitely a table flip, right? And we set all of the cutscenes we're using Cinemachine, our previous camera system. And I wish I could say we didn't have to do anything. It took us about half a day, but it took us half a day to fix an hour and a half worth of cinematics. And that's when it was like,
Amazing.
this is real. This is what we have to do. Like like it was the gospel, right? Like we had our manifesto, like we got to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So it brings
amazing.
us
Like
to sorry, go
there's
ahead.
instances where like a change like that, you're like, okay, I need 6 months, right? Like or
Yeah.
something or more
Or
in
now.
some instances.
Not 15 days before ship.
Right.
So, and I think, I mean, it's a little bit like audio sometimes, but cameras, they don't quite get the love that they need to. And I don't think the people who realize really know, but I don't think everyone really understands that cameras can make or break a project. You can make mediocre art look amazing with good cameras. The inverse is true. Cameras are so important that they kind of define video game genres like third person, top down, isometric.
Yeah.
The camera description is part of the game description. So you got to get it right. And I got this video, Dan, that video that I sent you. Can we tee that up?
Yeah.
This is the bit that, I mean, this is my soapbox a little bit, so indulge me and thank you. But like, we have watched so many movies. This is a Steadicam rig. We know how that moves. Like we've watched so much film. We see the lag between the camera operator and the subject. We feel the weight of the camera. It's on a tripod or whatever the rig is, Steadicam. The pivot point isn't at the sensor. Like we understand this because we've seen so much film, we've seen so much TV that like even our grandmothers have a surprisingly deep subconscious understanding of what cameras do, right? And in film, they get this for free because it's a real camera. Like put it on a tripod, the pivot point's right, the fluid head's right. But in CG and in games, we have to recreate that. So you've got what, three options? Like don't, because it's and I don't know how to do it. Or for cinematics, keyframe all of that, which is like an ocean of keyframes. And then someone says, we're going to make the character a little taller, or we don't like the animation. And then you're back to that table flip thing.
Yeah.
Or you write something and you start doing it. And this is where we were like 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think a lot of people take for granted, right? Like, camera operators are magicians, right? But like the act is relatively simple, right? It's hold the thing, understand how to pull and push focus, keep the thing on target, right? It's a much more tactile thing. Whereas
Yeah.
in games or digital anything, it's, you know, move a mouse and a gizmo and keyframe and animation and try to get all those little intricacies that you get from just having that natural thing on your shoulder that
And then
you don't have as easily in the digital world.
because you're beholden to like spline curves and tangents and something like that, you're really not able to kind of give that weight in a really easy way. You're just spending hours and hours to kind of emulate like what that kind of camera is meant to be. And it's something that we really pushed hard on to make work really well inside of Black Eye too as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes, no, I'll show it in just a second, but sometimes people are like more traditional layout artists, especially for cutscenes, are like, wow, this is my craft. And it's like, we're not taking that away at all. We're making you go faster. It's like, do you use inverse kinematics for your skeleton? Well, yeah. Okay. It's like that's a simplified example, but it's kind of like IK for cameras. Like you put the intent, you put what you want your shot to be, and all of that complicated math of what real cameras happens underneath. So it's not taking away control. It's just letting you go so much faster and iterate. And I mean, well, why don't I show you?
Yeah, yeah, and ideally, right, the tool should be used when they want it, and then if they have stuff that they want to do their own way, like also have the optional or the flexibility to do both, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Automate
right.
where it makes sense, and then yeah,
Something that Adam will show you when you start seeing the demo part is that like cameras start to become really easy to experiment with, and they become a cloud of ideas you can kind of play with and make them up on the fly. Whereas like they were very brittle before, so you kind of already talked about. So you'll
yeah.
see how quick it is to set up and experiment with edits when we get the demo.
Well, I know that we have a lot that we wanted to show off with that demo. So before we jump in real quick, if you have any questions for the team here from Black Eye Technologies about Black Eye 2.0, please leave them in the chat. Put in brackets question followed by the question, and we will gather up as many of them as we can and try to throw them to these folks. Probably most at the end of the show, but if anything's pertinent to the what we're seeing in hand, I'll try to throw those too. Try not to distract too much from it. If you have any other questions outside of what we're talking about here today, please head on over to the EDC, our Epic developer community, where we have our forums, we have documentations, we have tutorials from Epic and community members alike. Ton of resources there. Any questions for this show, please keep on topic, because that's what we're here for. These folks aren't going to have questions for things that are general ecosystem stuff. So with that, I think we're good to jump into the demo. How are you feeling?
Oh, great.
Let's do it.
Yeah. One thing I want to add too is like if anything comes up, like it's open to the audience as well. Please throw random ideas to us at some point. Like Adam's going to go show off the features, but we want to make this interactive, and we want cool, crazy camera shots and ideas from the audience to kind of like we'll do it live for you as well.
Yeah, and you said that
So
a moment ago, which I think is really cool, is like the freedom, not only the freedom to experiment, but and also that this tool like kind of encourages you to do so. I think that's really important for anything, right? Like not just cameras,
Yeah.
but for anything like that. Like play around with the tools, play around with compositions, play around with things. You never know what you might stumble upon.
So yeah, so here's a demo. Real quick shout out to Big Medium Small. This is their cyberpunk level. They make beautiful assets. We work with them. They give us assets, and we use them for our demos. And their stuff's gorgeous and so well built. So huge props to those guys. Okay, so we got a character. We've got a camera. You can see our new Black Eye 2 camera. It's different. It's wireless. So here it is. So here's the jam. So this is new. So we got this new thing called the Black Eye panel. And if I open up the Black Eye panel, what you're doing is we're looking through the lens. And this is where we're composing that subject on the screen. So all of the cameras look through the lens. This is a very basic, super basic camera right now that's just like composing and following the subject. And we've built these controls, and honestly, we went a little bit bonkers. See these knobs? Like they actually are emitting light on the knobs in the panel. We went bonkers on that. There's a feeling you get when you like have a real camera on a fancy tripod. with a really nice fluid head. And there's just something about it. And we're trying to make all of our stuff feel as authentic to real life as possible. So that permeated into like getting goofy on, um, the panel here. So here's the gist. So this is a real basic camera and it's looking through the lens and it's like composing and tracking and following this person. And you've got control over FOV and where they are on the screen. And you can keyframe all of this stuff, of course. And touching on that bit about the rigs, you can see when I move the camera, it all still works, but the camera's not pivoting around the sensors. CG cameras pivot around sensors unless you do something about it. A lot of people don't. And that doesn't look real. And we've got this whole rig area. And if I go to a steady cam rig, you can see this little red line. This camera's now up on a steady cam. If you see them, like people hold the steady cam and the camera's up top. And what you get is this different rotational movement. And that video clip that we watched where they're walking down the aisle, the Goodfellas, and they're in the restaurant scene, that was a steady cam. There's a mojo to this camera performance. And with Black Eye, you get the mojo, but you don't have to keyframe the mojo. You're just like, hey, I want the camera here, or I'm going to move it over here.
I don't think there's like any other procedural camera system that kind of offers this kind of like reverse IK for the camera to kind of give you these offsets to lens a lot more authentic kind of cinematics. So this was a really fun and very mathematically challenging thing to do. So I had a lot of fun while Adam's like, no, this is super important. You got to do it. I'm like, it's not that important. Oh, it's really important.
Now, I'm sure that the base, when you get the plugin, you install it, you press go. I'm assuming that the base variables have some like default damping and things like that. Is this kind of meant to feel like you open it and you're kind of good to go? Like, how much do people need to understand about dampening and dead zones and things like that? Or do you really just encourage like, hey, even if you don't know, just start tweaking some knobs, move the camera around, and see what it does?
Yeah,
it's kind of like more definitely the latter. So like one thing that's like super important, like in Black Eye 2, we introduced this panel because like normally in the details outliner inside of Unreal, it's just a sea of properties and there's not a very strong connection between I tweak this slider and this thing happens on screen. And what Adam said about it feeling tactile, that's such an important thing we took to heart to make sure everything is easy to access and fun to play with. So you can kind of like build an intuition for how to make cool shots using Black Eye.
I also just have to really quickly interrupt. The fact that you adjusted that dead zone knob and it had a visual representation of the dead zone in the UI is amazing. Thank you for that.
Think about you got an animation cycle and the character's like pumping or something. And I'm showing a cinematic camera, but all this works in our gameplay stuff, which we'll show you too. That, you want to have a damp and follow, but then you also want to disregard like really high frequency motion. So you can see here, and I set this way too big. It's just for the example, but that dead zone's huge. And, when I scrub back and forth, any motion inside that's going to get disregarded. That's one of the dead zones. Here's the damping. Feel the damping. I'm going to crank this right down to 0. We're now hard, and I can't pull the dead zone down too. This is now a hard locked camera to the head. Like, look at this, super video gamey, super like rigid. You might want that in rare situations, but it's probably firmly in the uncool category. And then we crank up the damping, and you can see those little dots give you a preview of like how much damping is on there right now. And the more damping, the more like loosely the camera will follow. I'll crank this up more. And now you can see that the subject can like really move around in the frame.
And that is one of the things that makes something feel realistic versus CG. It's I mean, you folks have been in the weeds obviously with this for years and years and years. So please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think just having that little bit of like follow through and overlap is what makes something feel natural, because a human isn't going to inherently know exactly what motion their target is going to be taking, right? They're reacting to what they're seeing, and what they're seeing is what's leading what they're doing. So having that overlap, that damping kind of factor is what makes it feel natural. If they're just hard locked onto it, I mean, that's the most rigid CG thing you could possibly do.
Yeah, like it's like there's a wait, there's a reaction time, there's even like leading if something's moving really quickly. Like can look ahead in time and try to point the camera where it's going to be, not just where it is or where it was. So that's really useful, especially if you're doing car cinematics or a car gameplay where things move very, very fast. You want to kind of lead the shot in that case.
Yeah.
My machine is locked up for a second. Live demos. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm just going to restart my machine. I don't know what happened, but I'm going
to. It is the nature of live demos, as you said. We'll pull that down for a second. While you put that up, I think we kind of loosely touched on this, but I'll throw this question at you real quick. Is what brought on the idea to fulfill this need? How did the idea come into being, and to tackle it in the way that you did?
Oh, that's a multifaceted one. We started with thinking about like what are the hard things? Like what is that relationship between a camera and the subject? You've got a camera that's following a subject and it's looking at a subject. So we started with like our look at, composition, and with our camera follow. And those, like that's the bedrock to which everything is. Like I just want to
If that doesn't work, then like we don't deserve to be here. That has to be the shining North Star.
Yeah. Just booting this up. And then the layers on top of that. And then it's like, okay, well, let's get into some gameplay. And this is what we've been working so hard with version 2. We've got, the orbit systems and collision systems. And I mean, this is a props to Gerald. These aren't lerps. The math is really hard. If you blend between two cameras that are pointing like this, what happens in the middle is almost always not what you want. And
because those systems always treat a camera as a position, a rotation, and a field of view. And like that is not how you should think about cameras. It is what's happening in the lens, and how do you transition from one shot idea, which is this high level blending is, to another shot idea and do it smoothly without a bump or a hitch. It's such a wonderful problem, and it looks so cool when you see it in action for the first time.
Yeah. Another quick one I can throw at you if you're willing is what is the biggest technical or creative challenge when creating fluid camera movement that still feels responsible during gameplay? I know we're going to be talking about some gameplay stuff later, so maybe we can touch back on that here in a little bit.
Well, I mean, that seamless blend and shot blending during runtime and gameplay was like one of the biggest hurdles and challenges that I personally had to deal with, and we spent a lot of time iterating on that and making sure it felt right, it was intuitive, and people could just use it without having to think about it. Like making these tools easy to access and super powerful.
So look at this. So we're back. Oh yeah, we're on. Okay, cool. Right from the start, create a camera. So, normally you can like create a camera and then throw it in the scene and then pilot and look around, and that's cool. We wanted to make this much more filmic. We have our own, this is our special create panel. And what you do is you can pick between different lenses in a lens pack. We've got a couple of lens packs, or your project can define them. Sometimes like the art director, or the DP, or whoever's involved in cameras, cinematics, or projects, like we're going to use these 6 lenses. That's it. Like a wide is always going to be a 20, whatever. So here's your lens packs. And if you look at this, you can see that we're getting a preview, these red lines, of what those different shots are going to do on the selected object. So before I've even created anything, you can like audition shot types out and just be like, do I want a 58 and a 75? Yeah, those are all pretty telephoto. And you can like move your preview camera around and it gives you the previews of all those shots. So I'm going to make 3, I don't know, just for giggles. Which 3? I'll do it.
So these all come kind of like pre-warmed with like the most logical or default things to look at in a character. So like once you drop them in, you can change. Like I'm looking at the head. Is it the head and the shoulders, or the head and the pelvis, or something like that? So like we try to automate as much as is possible, and it's customizable per project.
You can even see as I animate the character, those lenses are still giving you an updated preview. Like I'm still previewing, they're still tracking the character. So then you're like, cool, let's create those cameras. And bam, they're all created. Here's all 3. And as that camera character moves, the camera's like they've figured it out. You've told them the shot. You might want to change some of the settings, but there's those three cameras following character. And if you look, they're following kind of aggressively, like a little bit close. You can see they're swinging. So I'm going to just hide. We're just going to pick one of these. I'm going to just hide some of these because they're.
So this is introducing the second big component of our behaviors is how things follow. So it's not just a visual connection between the camera and the subject. There's actually a distance and an orientation relationship we allow to.
So I'm still going to adjust my look in the follow panel, but like if you look, you can see we've got damping and they're per axis. So they're at 0.1, but if I crank this up, then what that's doing is it's just letting this camera follow the character much more softly. I'm going to just go like, let's just go right high on everything. So now this is like a very smooth camera operator following that character.
Now, is the camera looking at like a bone in specific? Like, is that how you kind of tell it where to kind of, focus on and then allow it to kind of dampen from there?
Yeah, so great. So see, we got two bones on this one, and we set all the cameras up to we're assuming the UE skeleton. We look for head and different bone names. And depending on which lens you pick, we pick different bones. In this camera, we're doing the head and the pelvis. And this is huge because get this, if we go to dynamic zoom mode, what we're doing is we're now saying how big we want something to be on the screen. This is this subject size control. And this allows you to create cutscenes with variable characters. So you can have one cutscene handle. Think of a game where maybe you don't know what the character is going to be, where you've got a dialogue scene and you don't know who the people are. So watch this. So this shot's now following the head and the pelvis. But if I do something like bonkers, like select the character and set the scale to be 2.
That's the fog volume, by the way.
Fog volume. The fog's not helping us right now. If we set that to be, where did my guy go?
General category. An animation right now.
If we set this character to be huge, maybe I'll just do 1.5, but you get where I'm going. This is now a character. That shot is still going to work. That was the 58. Look at that. The shot still works because we're telling it to compose the head and the pelvis. So the lens is still working, the camera position is still working, everything's still working. And we see a world where you create cutscenes and the cameras understand your intent. You can still keyframe bits and pieces of them as much as you want. But if you're using, like, say, a dynamic zoom and you're targeting a couple of bones, that shot's going to work even if you change stuff.
Yeah, just to be a bit more specific about your question, Dan, it can be bones, it can be sockets, it can be components on an actor. You can literally target anything, and we support up to 16 targets to look at, and it'll actually combine them all into a reasonable viewport. And that was actually driven by NBA The Run, which is a game Adam and I wrote the camera system for that's coming out in a few weeks. We wanted to be able to look at the skeletons of all the basketball players on the court and actually compose an action shot in real time at gameplay, and then blend between 9 other cameras in real time to give you like the coolest shot and best shot for gameplay. So like if the system is battle hardened and robust to track a ton of things and still give you a reasonable result.
And I'm glad you brought that up too, because I was thinking, I'm like, man, 16 different, targets is probably overkill for most people, but it would make sense in a sports game or something like that, right?
Yeah, 100%.
That's awesome.
So like that kind of set like an upper bound for how ridiculous should we make this and how many things should we track in a given moment.
Yeah. Well, it's cool too to see these kind of things like you're mentioning here, where like it's been battle tested, right? Like there's the proof is in the pudding here with these sorts of things.
Yeah.
So this is what we call the hybrid mode. And what I'm going to do is we're going to put this shot on here. So you can see on this camera, we've got the look at and screen position. So just for giggles, we're going to put that screen position over here on the left. A little too far, but for the sake of this experiment. And then over here, We're going to put that screen position and we're going to move it over to the right. We're going to go over here and you can see it we have auto key on, so it auto dropped a key. This is like how shots work in film. This is where I am on my A. This is where I am on my B. I want the composition here at the start. So now with 2 keyframes, and I'm just going to put this to flat mode for a bit of performance. We start on the left, and over the course of that composition is going to slide, and now we're ending the frame on the right. And this is a really fast way to work because you can think of your shots and you're like, this is what I want it to be here. This is what I want it to be like here. And like the math of doing the Steadicam rig, you don't want to keyframe all of that. You get it for free here. Start on the left, go to the right, change the lens. So you work at a high level. You work like, what's the shot details that I want? Like, what's the concept of that shot that I want? And you let Unreal and Black Eye do all the stuff underneath.
Yeah, getting a lot of really positive feedback in chat right now. A lot of really great questions. One of them here that we had was someone asking, would distance dampening help with making that camera feel a little less static? We kind of showed a little bit before where that camera was really kind of locked in with.
Yeah. Oh, they want to see a little bit more? Yeah, like let's go. We can overcrank this. You can. Am I the right one here? Like these go to whatever number you want, all the way to off. And that camera's barely moving now. Like, look at that. It's hardly moving.
Oh, yeah.
And it's per axis because sometimes you want to like track it this way, but if the character goes up and down, you want to decouple separately, or you want to be really sensitive forward and back, like if you're doing a walking scene. But then if they kind of wander a little bit, you get like that. For having it per axis gives you a lot of control.
Yeah,
it's actually locked to subject heading right now, so you're getting some extra motion from the rotation of the dancer right now. So there's even if you're tracking an object, it can either be relative to its rotation or just relative to the world. So you can have it orbit with a character or follow where it's pointed forward or to the side, and always keep that relationship kind of the same. And you can choose the damping or how lazy that orientation is to kind of like get the feel of the camera you want.
Now, how much setup happened on this scene beforehand, right? Like we opened this project, we jumped in. How easy is it to have a project, load it up, bring in a character, and basically just hit the ground running? Like, what does that setup look like?
You just made that camera on the fly, right? Like that was one I just made right there. Like that
Right.
wasn't a pre-existing one. That's the whole point. Like we went through operations to like count the mouse clicks to like wire all this up. Under the hood, that camera is tracking the head bone, it's tracking the pelvis bone. It's got a bunch of damping settings set up. We call blueprints in, so if you actually want to change all those presets, you can. We get you going with the set, so people can configure that if they want to do other crazy things. But yeah, we do a lot of that work. So you can be in the moment and think like, okay, next shot, I want to be on the person's head. Let's try that lens. Let's audition those 2 lenses. That's the lens. Boom. This is a framing. This is a damping. Way it goes. And here's the thing: you can have multiple cameras set up. This is my next thing. And this is using our other.
If you drop this into like another project that doesn't have Black Eye, that might have a lot of sequences or other camera work already in it, like it's the same kind of idea. You just open up the Black Eye panel, pick your subjects, drop cameras in, put them in the cut track and sequencer, and you're off the races.
Yeah, and maybe I missed that at the beginning when you were creating the cameras, but like, what is the process for picking a subject? Is it just that like eyedropper there or that drop down in the upper right?
Oh yeah, like so on this, like for creating a camera,
or for like picking the subject of the camera?
Oh yeah, so
you just select it.
That simple.
Yep.
Yes. Here's like I'll just add a subject here, and you just go like, what's the subject? And you're like, the person. And boom, and it's
that's so cool. I love that. Yeah.
So by default, if you have an actor selected in your scene, it'll try to use that. But like you are free to keyframe any of those other subjects or changing the details or the Black Eye panel. Like it's so flexible when you can do. We just try to get you like off the races with as few clicks as possible with the panel right now.
So here's a crazy one: is we see a world where, I mean, dialogue in games, dialogue scenes, two characters talking is very common. We used to have a lot of like handwritten bits, but like with AI and things happening, obviously this is going to evolve. We're going to have more dynamic cutscenes where we don't know how long they're going to be speaking for, what they're saying, or how that goes back and forth. Like in short, we need cameras that can handle dialogue sequences, and we don't really know what's happening, and they got to figure it out. So we've got a new camera. We're calling it the Cross camera. It was in Black Eye 1, but it's got a bunch more features in version 2. And what it lets you do is it lets you set up camera relationships. And you can see I've got this little dialogue scene where I've got an over the shoulder here. And on the debug, you can see we're keeping the guy's head this blue. It's considering this head for the dirty over the shoulder. And then it's considering obviously the subject's head. And then for the other over the shoulder, it's the same but reversed. And then for the master shot, it's looking at both people's heads. And what's amazing about this is we've got this dialogue scene, and I just threw some edits on here. Let's just look at it. We'll have all the debug on. We're watching it cut. We're watching it handle these people moving around. So it's preserving those overs, even though the people have got like animation in it. And I kind of pushed it a bit too far. Like, let's have them move a lot. The camera system knows to keep that head on. The camera system knows to keep the other head on. And it's doing what it needs to do in order to maintain that shot. And if I blow this up, see, you can see the cameras here. It's a little bit dark, but you can see them all here. Like if I just take this character and start moving it, look at the cameras. They're all like figuring it out. Like those cameras
I love this
are,
camera. It's so cool.
It's so cool. It is
or
so
if I
cool.
move this apart, like the master's figuring it out. Like I am figuring out what to do in this situation right now.
And there's so many games out there that have, like Adam said, these procedural dialogue systems, and then you could spawn like a cloud of these cameras that will shoot the dialogue, and you can just cut between them, and you always have something that's going to work.
And I know you mentioned it before, but I feel like this is a really great example of kind of like showing that experimentation, right? Like you put two characters talking, whatever, and then you want to play with like their positioning or any sort of thing like that. Like having it be reactive like that makes experimenting more worth it, right? Because there's a lot of instances where you're like, well, the shot works, and it's going to take me a lot of time to try a few other things or whatever. Like, do I have the time, the resources, or is this okay? But being it's like, oh, it's as simple as I move it, and if I don't like it, I undo, and then it's back. Like that's
and like, you know what? 4 out of 5 times, maybe your gut reaction wasn't great, but if you have the freedom to like try out crazy ideas, you do kick over that buried treasure every once in a while, and you find something that you wouldn't have done because it just would have been too hard, or you're gonna get the time to do something and it doesn't work, and then you're like, well, you know what I mean? Like super instant iteration. Well, while we were chatting, I just took this master and I set the FOV to not be a fixed lens, which of course you can do, but to be dynamic zoom. I'm just gonna like recompose it, and I'm just gonna say I want these guys to be this size in frame. So this camera is now figuring out to keep those people that size. So watch this. If I move the people apart, it's gonna do the move and the zoom in order to keep them together. And if they get very intimate, then the camera will get very intimate. You see where it's it figures it out, right? And then now
Yeah.
you set the 3 cameras up. You've got a dialogue scene. You throw in a different character. You have a small person talking to a big person. I mean, I'm just getting kooky here, right? But like it's
Yeah, I
figured.
just want to call out one thing too. It's like just a reminder for everyone, all this works in gameplay and runtime too. Just for the sake of example and demos, it's just a lot easier for us to show it in a static scene. But we'll get this in gameplay stuff later still.
Yeah, gameplay. Yeah, let's I got one more idea I want to do on this one. Um, so let's do, yeah, I'll just do this. We're gonna just create a new camera. I'm gonna show you one more hybrid mode because this stuff is so fast. I'm gonna pick a 35 lens. We're gonna create this camera. It's looking at her like this. Great. There it is.
Like a crane camera or something.
Yeah, like let's drop something in from super high. I'm gonna just name it crane so I can find it after. We're gonna pull it onto my very crowded. It's in here somewhere. Okay, crane. Here we go. So let's just turn that off and we'll just see. We're going to put a camera down here. So this is another one of those hybrid mode setup shots. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a transform track to this. We're going to keyframe the composition. That's the, make sure I'm on the right one here. We're going to keyframe the subject position, and we're going to, did I put the transform on the wrong one?
Put the transform on the wrong one.
And we're going to keyframe, we're going to keyframe, oh, I've seen this before. This is actually a, an Unreal bug. I got to close sequencer real quick, believe it or not.
You actually also preempted a question. We had somebody in chat said, is it possible to rig this up to do live cinematic cameras at runtime? Right, as you guys were saying, you can do it in runtime.
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, like we NBA The Run, we use Black Eye in a shipping title on PS5, Xbox, and PC. We use that to battle harden a lot of our cameras at runtime to make sure they run cheap enough that you can throw 50 in your level, and they're all evaluating shots you can cut to, and it doesn't even tickle the CPU. We want to make sure you can do a lot of different ideas and play with them.
Well, that's a good point that I was also going to ask too. Is like, is there any overhead that anybody should realistically have any worry about, or is this, barring some really fringe cases, pretty light?
I mean, if you're going to use a couple hundred simultaneously, I might say you might see a few milliseconds, but I don't think that's a super realistic use case, though I'm always looking at opportunities to make it more efficient in performance.
Right.
Okay, so we're back. So we got the shot. We're down here. And I want to end on this, but I want to do like a crazy crane up something. So just grab the camera and let's do a crazy crane up. You can see it's rotating around whatever rig. You can even, change your rig mind after. And we've got that key dropped. So now this camera is going to come in and it's going to drop and show this character. Did I keyframe the transform? Yeah. And I didn't keyframe my lower one. My bad.
Someone in chat saying, really love how Black Eye approaches from a cinematography standpoint, from a filmmaker mindset rather than just a technical camera system.
Thank you for saying that, because that's exactly like what I like to hear, because that's exactly where we come from when we built Black Eye. You had a different keyframe selected, Adam, when you were modifying the transform.
Yeah, I know. Okay, let me go up high. So, we start. Oh, there's something weird going on.
Yeah, sequencer's not having a good day.
Oh, there's a bit of a weird thing. I'm gonna move on. My machine is acting a little strange. So why don't we get into the gameplay stuff? I mean, let's talk about that.
We'll do it.
Dan, if you can pull me off, I'm just gonna switch over.
Yep. Well, if I throw you a question in the meantime?
Yeah, fire away, man.
This one, I think, is just a good one. I think we loosely touched it at the beginning, but how user and beginner friendly is this plugin? Is this something that anybody should be able to pick up and just fly?
Yeah, so I think a big reason for what we did in 2.0 is we wanted to make it easy for people to access Black Eye and understand all the different controls you have in front of you. And that Black Eye panel that we created is your kind of tactile interface to kind of start, learning about the capabilities of Black Eye. All the most useful things are right there in front of you to start playing with. There's example scenes to kind of show you how to configure it. So if you're not just going to be dropped in the middle of an ocean, there's documentation, there's scenes that kind of demonstrate, best practices and how to use Black Eye too.
Oh, sorry.
We like the idea that pros are going to go faster and beginners are going to get great shots out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
So If you don't really know much about cameras, your cameras are going to have more authentic to reality, believable performances. And if you really know what you're doing, you're going to go so fast.
Yeah, and it would be one of those things where I'd recommend to somebody new to this is get in there, start playing around with it, but then also like if you're looking at that beginning, right, where it says what kind of camera do you want to make? You're doing an 18 millimeter, you're doing a 35 millimeter, you're doing a 125 millimeter, and you don't know what that means. Look it up. Right, look up what the millimeter means in terms of the lens. You can get really in the weeds with cameras and things like that, but at least as long as you understand the fundamentals, the foundations, you'll be able to kind of hit the ground running with things like that.
Yeah, I mean, a nice thing about Unreal being a game engine first, but useful for cinematics and everything is like you still get field of views at the end of the day, and like a lot of people understand field of views, but it's a great gateway into understanding focal length and lenses. So you don't have to wear that kind of burden of knowledge immediately, but yeah, building that is really, really useful.
Okay, you can all see this. Okay, so this is the demo level that comes with it. And you can see that there's like this playground of all these different ideas, and we're going to show some of them off. But the gist is this. Instead of one giant ball of code camera, one mega blueprint that's trying to do everything, you create multiple cameras, and the cameras do the thing that you want at any given scenario. And they don't all have to be orbit cameras. They can just be like, this is what I want to do right here. So we're going to do this interesting cube. We got a trigger volume. This is one of our trigger volumes. We call
so
it.
Like there's no C++ code for this. It's just blueprints and trigger volumes.
I also
and even the
have
blueprints.
Sorry.
You're smiling, Dan. What you got? Something
well,
good.
I just have to interject too, because we had another instance where somebody in the chat says, does this include a demo environment or sample project to help learn all the camera controls and systems? And then you opened it up immediately. It's like the second time you preempted it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
We've got a great audience right now. Thanks, audience. Yeah. Good questions. So check this out. So we got a black eye trigger volume that's broadcasting a tag. And then we've got a camera that's listening for that tag. And that's it. Like that's the setup. And then you say how you'd like those two things to blend together. This particular camera is called a cross cam. That's the same one as the dialogue. They're super powerful. And what this camera does is it's going to take you, the player, plus something else into consideration, this very interesting cube. So here I'm hitting play. I got a controller. And we're going and watch, just standard orbit, right? Vanilla. This is our orbit, but watch this. And as soon as you get close to the cube and hit the trigger volume, we seamlessly blend in. Look how butter that is. And now we're looking at the cube. And I can still run that, but I can't.
That's the real-time blending of the composition and all the high-level ideas. Yeah.
We turn off the orbit just for this because we want people to look at the interesting cube. And then when I run out, you can run at any angle. We blend perfectly back to now I have orbit control. And that math, Gerald gets a gold star for, because that was easy. And like I could,
it was the pits of hell and quaternions, man. Let me tell you.
And we're running around, and it's like, okay, that's cool. And it's like, okay, I'm out of here. And then we seamlessly blend back. We can blend into a cutscene. Now we're playing a cutscene on sync with Sarah. This is a very terrible cutscene, but we're doing cuts. And then we seamlessly blend back, all super easily.
Yeah, and when you entered that trigger volume and it focused in on that interesting cube, you could use something like that where that trigger volume does the interesting cube focus for like a duration of time and then returns camera to the player, right? So it doesn't have to be like, if I enter here, I'm stuck indefinitely. Like that's just an example of like when you reach a certain trigger, this is the thing that can happen, and then you can return control to the player at any time.
Well, you're preempting our demo.
Oh, okay, good, great.
So if you look here, we've got a module called the shot list that lets you stack cameras and put a time between them. So as soon as we go in here, we're going to blend to a wider camera, really far. I mean, this is a demo. We're going too far with things. And then when we go to this shot list area, we.
Oh no. We're back.
We still have video, but we did lose Adam's voice.
So like Adam is describing it right now is like we have something called a shot list, which basically gives you like a list of cameras to kind of like walk through. And this is great for like calling out or highlighting a specific thing. You basically give it a list of black eye cameras and a blend time, a hold time, and then it'll blend all the way back out automatically to whatever camera was there before it.
I don't know if my Zoom cut out for a second. I don't know if you lost me, but I'm back.
Yeah,
we kept your stream, but
Okay.
I talked over everything while you were gone.
Thanks, Gerald. Yeah,
you're welcome.
so do a 2-beat, or here's another one. And this is one, but we've got a dampen orbit. So you can see I can still orbit a little bit, but we've toned that down. But let me show you this bit that I wanted to show you. This is a classic thing that's really hard in cutscene transitions, is you don't know where the user is. So I want to go into a seamless cutscene, but I could be looking this way. We don't know, right? You have no idea. So in this particular demo, what we do is we have a trigger volume for the blue area. And what we do there is we rotate the camera around to be at a desired angle. And then we go into the cutscene. So I'm going to torture test this. I'm going to come like bad angle. And as soon as we come into here, the camera swings to be at the desired angle. And then when I go into the cutscene, then I can go straight into the cutscene seamlessly. So this lets you, like, at any time you want to like have someone look at something, or you want to like just pull the camera away so you can seamlessly go into something else. And we've got this rather mediocre cutscene.
Full marks A+ cutscene cinematic here.
This in like 10 minutes.
But the fact that you can do that in that period of time is amazing, right? Like this could have been, even at this quality, could be hours and hours of work.
And then we cut right back to the orbit there.
Yeah, and you're seamlessly in. So so that's just the speed of it. Real simple stuff. Like I just want to get closer when I go through a tunnel. So we take the default camera rig orbit, copy it, make the radius smaller, hook it up to the trigger, and then you walk in here, and now the camera gets closer. And
you can show off the collision as well.
Oh yeah, I'll go back. You can set that up faster than it takes you to actually talk about setting that up. Like that's not a joke. So this is some like really intense collision. We actually penetrate the character slightly because this is a super small world, but we spent a bunch of time getting that collision to feel great.
And just having the easy controls over that damping, right? To like make it kind of go in and out at like, in some instances you might want it to be pretty fast, pretty snappy, but other times you kind of want it, you almost want even the character to, or the player to not even notice that the camera's doing something. Like if you're not noticing the camera's doing something, then that's immersion, right? Like that's just the definition of
100%. Yeah.
It's like magic, right? Like in a good film, you don't feel the editing, when it's effortless. Hats off to Naughty Dog and The Last of Us and Uncharted, and those games, like they do really sophisticated camera moves, very subtle, very gameplay and world adaptive, and we are highly inspired by their incredible work. We want you to be able to do it with like a person on your team instead of however many it takes to do that. Look at here's an example. So I'm orbit, like let's just go into a side scroller and let's do a side scroller mode. And then once we get close to the boss, we put the boss in, and we've got this like looking at two things. And then we get away from the boss and we go just straight back to side scroller. I can't orbit, then run away. And then look at this, completely seamlessly, I'm into the orbit camera.
I knew the very interesting cube was going to be the villain the whole time.
And this is the thing, like, I don't know, is this the camera we want to try right here? Is this, maybe that side scroller is, I'm just going to go open it up. This is the other thing, is if you turn this little button on, everything that you do in play saves. And that's huge because like how often are you tuning stuff in play mode and then you're taking screenshots of details panels and like trying to
you can stop paying Apple or whoever for replacement print screen buttons. It's really useful.
Now, just out of curiosity, for something like that side scroller transition, right? Like that would be a very specific use case where you would go from a full 3D perspective camera to like a side scroller. Would this work to like transition to like an orthogonal camera, like orthographic, camera? Or is that something that is not possible with these tools?
I mean,
So
the orthographic case, I don't think I super handle gracefully right now. Like I would say, like try to do a perspective compression to best achieve that. But
Mm.
like an orthographic perspective camera is totally in the cards.
I'm going to turn this text off just because it's kind of annoying. That's the text just to show you what was happening here. But if you look, I was just tuning like where the person is on screen, how high the camera is, how far back it is, and then you just try it out. Okay, now we're running from that shot in orbit to this shot. And then
That quick iteration is what I love. Like the fact that that takes no time at all to get in there and just start playing with it.
now we're feeling that and like, yeah, it is kind of cool to do the side scroller, but he's too high in the screen, you know? So let's just like go to the look panel and just change where it is on screen, lower them right
Reason the
down.
details right here, but the black eye panel would work just the same as well.
Yeah. And then now I mean, this is too low, but like, and look at how smooth that goes.
We have someone in chat that really wants you to stress test your systems. They asked, what does it look like if you walk into the volume backwards?
Okay.
Do it.
How do I walk backwards?
Whip the camera
centering
around
is,
and then, yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry, like this. Yeah. Okay, let's do it. And that's a pretty extreme example too, because we're like super.
But that could be smoothed with dampening, right? Like you could.
yeah.
So you've got
So
her.
something that I was just about to say is like you every camera is a set of gameplay tags, and there's like a matrix data asset we can have that tells you how to blend between those types of cameras. So you can make it a very long blend, very short blend. You can make sure that if I'm active, I can't be blended to or cut from for a specific period of time. Like
this is something we talked a little bit in one of our meetings before the show, where it's one of those things where it seems really simple, but it's way more complicated than it actually seems. Would it be something that where you could set like thresholds of angle for camera, so it's like, hey, if I enter within this range of an angle, it's going to be this level of dampening. If I'm exceeding that, then it's going to use a different level, so that way you don't have to like have an overly smooth if you enter it from the front, but can still compensate if you back into it for whatever reason.
It's a really good question.
So it's we're getting really in the weeds now, but
yeah. No, I love it. That's coming from a really cool place, and I think it's a very valid question. But like right now, we kind of treat the blends like as is, and kind of like the system itself is smart enough to make the shot work. But I understand why. If it wasn't an ideal shot, you might want to stretch it just a little bit longer.
And we're also talking about like the extreme cases, right? Like most people aren't going to walk backwards into the zone in most cases.
I mean, I would, because I like to break games.
Right, to test and see what it does, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm on Starlink right now. I don't know if am I kind of chunking out? How's the video stream?
You're completely fine on the screen share, but the camera is a little choppy, but we can hear you just fine.
Okay. Oh, but the video is okay. Like the
the screen share looks great.
So this is that cloud module where you can set up a number of cameras in a list, and you can randomize them, or you can cut to the one that's got the best shot. So when we go into here, we start this cutscene, and I'm not editing. We're editing based on 3 different cameras, and we're cutting between which one has a shot of the character.
And this is fully dynamic, right? Like if you stopped walking,
I'm not doing anything.
Well, it's a sequence driving the character, but the cameras are dynamically shooting visibility checks against the thing. So if it's a dynamic performance, it's always going to cut to a camera that has a clear shot of the performance itself.
That's cool.
What a lot of this came from Need for Speed. I worked on Need for Speed and did the cameras and the replay cameras. And when you have like car crashes, you don't know where they're going to crash. And it's like, you want to do a really cinematic treatment of this like intensely variable scenario. So we have these rigs called the shot list, and you can stack them with cameras and it'll go through them. I'm going to just boot one up right now.
It's funny you bring up Need for Speed with that. I've been recently playing the new Forza Horizon
Mhm.
game, and they have a cinematic. Like, first off, you can just pick a destination and then just press a button, and the car will drive you there, which is cool. But then they also have an option for like a cinematic camera of that, and I'm like,
Oh,
that's one of
cool.
those things that seems so simple, but like that camera has to react to all the road conditions, where you are in the
Mhm.
world, where their cars
Mhm.
are. Like, seems simple, but it's ridiculously complex.
Totally. So here's that shot list. So it's one camera. So on the cuts on the sequencer, it's just one camera.
Mm.
But that camera has got three child cameras. You got these little solo buttons so you can like audition them. So you put the hardest cameras first in the list. This is one way of configuring it. So it's like, that's not a good shot. This is the camera. It has the shot. It works. And then this is a wide camera, which is kind of like the safety shot in this example. And then as the character goes through, it's just dynamically flipping between every one of those cameras in that list to give you the shot that's working. And because this is a single camera, you can actually have multiple different shot lists on a sequencer. So here's a shot list of all different wide cameras. Here's a shot list of all different telephoto ones. So you get like the camera's handling whatever's happening, but you could still like define and edit, because you've got, multiple shot lists in the sequencer.
And
Powerful little.
these can all be nested within each other too. So if you can get really crazy, so you can do a crash zoom shot list if one of those becomes live suddenly.
Yeah, and I wanted to throw back a little bit too. A second ago, we had the obviously the camera look at the cube, and you had
Mhm.
one where there was no orbit control for the camera, and there was one with subtle orbit control. Just
Yeah.
a random tip to throw out there for game devs: having your character look at something is amazing. There's a lot of reasons that you'd want to do that, but allowing for that very subtle orbit control to give them a little, like at least the semblance of control, is
Yes.
huge. You very rarely ever want to take direct control away from the player, even though in that instance you ostensibly have, but you're giving the illusion that they have control, and that eases a lot of friction.
So
And amazing timing. Check this out. So I've got full orbit control. And on this aim one, we swing in to make you look at that, and we still give you control, but we like dampen it a
Yeah,
lot.
exactly.
And then you come out. So you still force the user to look at something, but you don't remove them of their agency, right? Exactly.
Absolutely.
There's another one, just an extreme one, like a top down, and it's like we're keeping the character and the interesting cube in. So we're blending from essentially one subject, you, to two subjects being you and the cube. And as soon as you walk away, you blend right back.
And I feel like we can't stress enough that this is all like runtime. Like, this is game ready stuff. Like,
Mhm.
yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Like we just shipped NBA The Run. I mean, it's a huge NBA licensed game.
And there's a lot more games in the pipe where we're sworn to secrecy about. So like it's still getting used in a lot of places. And we're always super stoked to see what people come up with. They'll drop by our Discord and they'll show us what they're working on, and like to help people out where we can as well.
now this is just like preempting a question that may or may not have been in the chat. I'm currently catching up on everything, but I'm just curious. Like, would you recommend? Let somebody say somebody's making a first person game.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Does Black Eye make sense for them?
So that's a great question. So because we have a camera manager with custom blends and priorities, even if your camera isn't doing anything because it's a locked off camera in the world, or it's the camera that's bolted to your reticle and it doesn't have any of our procedural stuff, just by having it in our ecosystem means you can seamlessly go from that camera to something else. You can cut to something. You've got the manager. So our answer is like, I'd still use it, because what about all the other cameras in your game? And you don't want to have these like isolated, like, well, that's that camera and I actually can't transition. Here's an example on that. Historically, cameras have been a pawn, like a child of the character pawn. Like the camera's inside,
Components inside the character, yeah.
which is crazy, because what if you want to traverse levels? What if you want to like not be that character? What if anything other wants to happen? We believe cameras live at the top. They overlook everything. So a camera can follow and look at a person, but then in a moment's notice, blend or cut away or do something else. So yeah, so even if you're not doing black eye procedural crazy R stuff, just being in our ecosystem means that that camera can plug into a whole world of other options.
And I just want to add one more thing. Like, just because you're using black eye doesn't mean everything has to be a black eye camera. You use the default Unreal cameras, the Cine camera actor, camera components. We play very nicely with everything. So we're not forcing you to use one specific workflow with the system.
Oh, here's an interesting question. Is this with locked Z, or can you maybe play with the maths a little bit to follow even upside down or the camera flip as well? Do you have full control?
Yeah.
Do you want to load up the car scene?
Yeah, so great question. I'll show you right here, and then I'll do it what Gerald said. So our follow mode has got, I need to select something. We got 3 different settings. Follow world relative. So I want the camera to follow with these world coordinates, or follow the subject's heading. So we flatten the rotations, and it's just like if the character's pointing, the camera will follow that. Or subject locked. And that's like, think of a GoPro camera stuck on a car. So if that car flips upside down, the camera goes upside down. Plus you have all the damping and everything, but basically that's inherit all the transforms of the object that you're following. Hopefully that answers that question, because that's a really good question.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick one on this. I'm just going to go to it. So in our look module, and I turned on the debug, by the way, so you can see the grid lines and what we're looking at. So we blended this overhead camera, and we're doing, we've got velocity-based look ahead. So if you see that little blue dot, it's ahead of the character, but then if I slow down, it's on the character. So this is really powerful in situations where you want, well, one, the character not to be like pinned to the middle of the screen, or you want to give like a little bit of composition look ahead so you can see further into the level what's happening.
So right now, for context, you're not adjusting the camera at all. You are just moving the character, right?
Just run around. And then just for giggles, we're going to blend from a top-down velocity-based look ahead into this 2-point telephoto, look at the average of both of those things, and then blend away. Like these are very...
Well, then when we triggered a blend, canceled the blend, blended to a new thing all at once because you stepped into and out of the trigger volume a few times.
Totally.
And it was fine. It didn't pop or do weird stuff.
So now we're composing on both of those things, and this camera is far away with a telephoto lens. Yeah, and I'll torture test it. I'll run back to normal orbit and then run back into this top down. You can just see like
very smooth.
That has been, we can very gently say that was hard to do.
Again, another instance of it looks simple. It seems like it should be simple, and it is extremely not.
You're looking at 30 years of combined blood, sweat, and tears manifesting into a camera position.
I'm going to switch it up for a sec. So if you can just let you know, I'm going to get out of here. And sweet, thank you.
Throw another question at you while you load that up.
Go for it.
Are there any rig setups for other camera rigs, swing arms, booms, shoulder mounted, tripod, etc., etc.?
Yeah. So we come with shoulder mount, a steady cam, like tripod fluid head, and then easy rig. Easy rigs, those rigs that people wear the pack, and it has the arm that comes over the top and it hangs the camera down like on a cable. Those are all the rig rotation models that we have, but you've also got controls so you can just cook up your own. So we have presets for those, and then knock yourself out on other ones.
Awesome. Another question we had here is, do the cameras have motion/rotation noise built in? Is it specific to the type of camera rig being used, aka camera rolling with rails will have more pitch and vertical noise caused by bumps and dirt on the rails? And if not, do you have any plans for something like that?
That's a great question. I love it when this one gets asked.
So there's no noise now. That said, we support UE's procedural noise or any of the, the assets on the asset store that have got like real or procedural noise. You just drop it on. It's a really cool space mixing the two. Gerald and I have built a number of camera noise systems before using Perlin noise. And I will go on the record as saying that you will only ever get to 75% with that. It's also really painful. It's a whole sea of numbers. It's really complicated to set up. It's annoying. So in a upcoming release of Black Eye, which will be free, we're having what we're calling is a very excellent camera handheld noise system. And it uses real data, and we're going to blend it in really neat ways. And you'll be able to put super amazing noise on there that is still relative. You can still do procedural composition, but you've got the noise layer on top. We can't wait. We've been talking about it for years, literally, and it's coming up after this.
I think it's like one of the first things that Adam and I talked about for Black Eye a couple of years ago when we got together. And it's been that super cool gem in the distance, and now that we got all this gameplay stuff kind of buttoned down and in front of people, like let's talk noise.
So you guys can see a car, and this is the Unreal's demo with the car in it. And I am not throwing shade. This camera is the default camera. This isn't us. My guess is whoever put this in didn't spend a ton of time on it. It's a very basic camera. You can see it, and it goes back and forth. A little bit of damping. I'm not criticizing this camera because I don't think a lot of love was put into it. But what I do want to show you is what the difference a camera that's got a lot of love put onto it can make. So you can see like I'm accelerating and decelerating. You can't really feel it. The car's stuck to the middle of the screen. It's a basic camera. It's a basic driving camera. So what we're going to do is this camera, we include it. It's one of the demo rigs. You just drop it in a scene, and I'm going to tell it to bind to player 0 and also to look at and to follow. And this camera is set up with a bunch of juicy car settings. I've gone a little too far because we want you to like feel everything. So it's a little, oh, actually I was tuning this in our last demo and I made it all crazy. It's a little rich in terms of what its settings are, but just to show like it's
Don't
fast.
forget save and play.
Yeah. This is a crazy, we were demoing this the other day and we just went to like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just set this up to be not like a crazy, insane setting. We've got some dynamic zoom that's on here. And what we're going to do is, let me just fix this dynamic zoom. Actually, I'm just going to turn it off. Okay. Too sexy. Just get this camera back.
No, while you're doing that, we have someone in chat saying, "Wow, showcasing the exact things I need and doing it repeatedly is shocking me."
It's always a risk doing a live demo, but like there is no better way. Honestly, put your money where your mouth is, and like we love doing live demos because people are going to throw like the craziest things at us. Like, okay, cool, yeah, we'll show you right now. And I love that that chat is throwing out some cool stuff for us. So keep it coming.
So this isn't a driving camera. This is like a follow crazy camera. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to like quickly turn it into a driving camera. So you can see that there's a lot of decoupling between the camera and the car. And that's that's like the positional damping that's on here. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to turn that down like 0.1, 0.1, but I'm going to keep a lot on for the Z for the height. So now you can see that the camera is following a lot closer. Now we've got an incredible amount of rotational damping on there. That's like, see how we're seeing the side of the car? It's actually kind of annoying as a drive camera, maybe kind of fun as a replay camera. So what that is that's this orientation damping. I'm going to set that lower. So now the camera is following way more closely on the car rotationally. We're still not a great position. Where I'm going with this is like, oh, you can see, like, I'm just tuning this.
Adam, do you want to turn on the debug so people can actually see the visualization for all the stuff that tweaks you're doing?
So I'm going to just move in a little closer and get a little lower. There. And now we got a camera pulls away. It's not totally stuck to the screen. We've got a pivot point that's in front of the car. And look at this. I'm going to go too far with this virtual pivot point. This feels really good on driving cameras, or when you put a little bit of velocity look ahead onto where you're looking. So we're looking right here on the car, and there's an offset on that. I'm going to put it into local space, and I'm going to move that offset, not that axis, sorry. This one. No, I was right.
You want the subject offset, Adam, not the global one for this?
Oh, sorry. Am I in the wrong one? Thanks, Gerald. The sunlight's coming into the room and like smashing me into the my into the space. Offset local space. Okay.
Yep.
So this is how far ahead of the car we're looking. So if I set this to 0, we're looking like right at the middle, but we've got the velocity look ahead that's like pushing that in front. And then as I slow down, that pivot point comes in. Put a little bit of damping on that.
You can see it's inheriting a bit of the roll as well too now. So like the camera is kind of more like a floating action camera that is going to follow the body roll a little bit.
Right.
And by tuning these things up, you can end up with a very, on Need for Speed, we had about 40 different channels from the car coming in and you know, modifying what the car camera is doing.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because that was going to be my next question. Is like right now we have it very reactionary to like the position of the vehicle itself, but you also mentioned that this is done. I think you said almost exclusively in Blueprint, or is all in Blueprint, right?
Oh, no,
or...
it's all C++
C++.
Code, but it's all exposed to Blueprint. Like
right.
Anything that any property you see, any C++ API, I've also exposed it to Blueprint.
And how much control do you give with that? Like to adjust the FOV based off if the character is using like a boost or something like that? Is that easy to customize and kind of control these features with that?
There's a couple of different ways you can slice that. One way is do another camera, which is like, it's overhead, it's tuning that may not be what everyone wants in their game. Your Blueprint can also touch these properties directly. And thirdly, something that I added for 2.0 is gameplay modifiers. So you have every property has a modifier that you can either override or add an offset to. So like you can control that from a higher level bit of logic, and you can like widen the FOV, change the damping or any other property as an offset or an absolute thing. So your gameplay can get the camera react the way that you want it to as well.
Look at this little shot.
Blueprint or C++, all that stuff's exposed, so have fun.
Amazing.
So we're using a little velocity look ahead on the composition. So when I'm stopped, the car's properly composed. But as I speed up, the composition moves forward. So you get that like look ahead vibe that a real cinematographer would do, because you want to see where you're going. And then when you stop, and because it's velocity, it works backwards too. So I'm going backwards and I'm seeing that composition change. And this was the driving camera that I just moved to the side, and it's like, oh cool, we got this new side camera.
You can even turn into a drone camera too if you want, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, Dan, this is something you called right at the start, but it's like when you can experiment this quickly,
right?
And it's this easy just to like cook up crazy ideas.
Now we've gotten in trouble with the cops, and we need to get out of here.
Yeah, and I'm a little.
We're back to GTA 1 or 2 perspective.
yeah.
I'm going to just move this a little higher in the frame. But you get where this is going. I mean, it's just fun. It's probably too far.
And you just touched on it, but like the part of this that keeps, shocking me is just you tweak this in a couple seconds, right? Like there wasn't like I needed to create a new camera, I needed to hook it up or anything like that. Just like there's some variables and you play with them and you find something that feels good. And if it doesn't feel good, you adjust it and it adapts in real time.
You didn't have to nudge an engineer. You didn't have to stop play, tweak a blueprint, compile it, save, get back to where you were. And like, it's just constant iteration. And that was a gimbal lock right there.
So yeah, you see where this is going. I mean, this is insane now, but
Yeah,
like,
look at that.
we're gonna put on a ton of damping. Check this out, just for fun. We're gonna put a ton of look damping. This is like the most like half asleep camera operator. Oh, we got the rotational heating going on in here.
Like he's got the roll right now, but the camera arm's like a kilometer off the side of the car, so it's actually pitching the arm of the camera up and down a little bit as it rolls. It's kind of fun.
Gonna put a ton of positional damping on it. I mean, it's just fun. You just end up like, so this is now, so what we've got is we've got a ton of positional decoupling. We've got a ton of screen space decoupling. I mean, this is a totally ridiculous camera.
Right.
Might even be able to like drive off the screen, but now it's just like this like operator that's like kind of half following, half looking at it, you
Haven't
know.
had enough espresso yet.
It's silly, but
And
like when you can play like this, you come up with ideas that you just, would be too risky to try if you were actually going to like ask someone to build this camera for you, right?
and
Or
I
sort of blueprints.
And I'm glad you brought that up because it's something that I try to stress quite often is like sometimes happy accidents completely change a project, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
if you are stifled or limited with tools or whatever it is that you can do, you're way less likely to find those happy accidents and then potentially stumble upon something that completely changes your game. Like, I mean, I can think of just off the top of my head like a dozen different games where it's just like, yeah, this was like a bug or this was something that we just wanted to try. And then we like, oh, actually, we super like that. Like the example I always give is like Halo was originally an RTS and then they were like driving a Warthog's kind of fun. Let's pull the camera in. And then they pulled it in. They're like, that's even more fun. They pulled it even further. Like now it's third person. They're like, hey, let's pull it in even further. And now it's a first person game. It's completely different because they experimented. And they did it obviously with tools that were much more rigid than something like
Yeah,
this.
like
But they
I'm
gave
a Halo
themselves.
fan, and I never even knew that. That's like a blow
Oh,
my
really?
mind today. I learned thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, look it up. It's amazing. Yeah, the
Okay.
original Halo was RTS. So they were trying to do sci-fi. Their previous myth, right, was their fantasy RTS. They wanted to do a sci-fi version of it, and then it just evolved over time, which is amazing. But
And like
they
there's
gave themselves the ability to
yeah.
experiment and explore, and that led to an amazing product. And something like this can help you do something like that too, right? Where it's like I can play with the camera. What does it look like if I send it, to a helicopter view with a couple clicks of a button?
And then
Yeah.
like I was playing around just for ridiculousness sake. Like I put a driving camera on the Manny Quinn third person level. I put the first person camera, third person, top down driving camera on a character. Like, and it's even funny. You can change a genre so easily just by just swapping out the blueprint that you spawn in.
Yeah, I also another comment in chat that's pretty great. Even in Quanturnian land, we could never fully escape the gimbal lock monster.
Correct. I make sure to tell you, like they tell you it solves gimbal lock, but it just no.
It helps. It's not a
It
solve,
certainly
it's a
helps.
help.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So Dan, that's it for demos. I mean, we can.
amazing, amazing. Is there anything, chat? Do you want to see anything real quick while we have it open? We have a ton of questions, so I definitely want to jump into that. But while
Let's get
while we're
going.
in while we're in the world, anything crazy you want to see while we have it up? I personally, I love this. This is so cool. I've been working on a project myself for the past year or so, and I've been playing with cameras. And you don't appreciate a good camera until you try to make your own, and then you go, "Oh no!"
Yeah. I never want anyone to have the Red 5000 line camera code system again for a game. You should just be able to like drop in a bunch of blueprints, send your designers and artists at it, find the coolest thing you can with it, have fun. This should be fun, just like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, while we wait for a couple questions to come in, we'll have Adam maybe just drive around and play with some more camera stuff in the meantime, and I'll throw some questions at you.
Sweet.
Yeah, you bet.
This one's more of like kind of like a creative, just general thought, which is how much does motion interpolation contribute to achieving film-like fluidity in real-time gameplay cinematics?
Adam, you love this one.
Motion interpolation. Okay, well, so there's two sides to that answer. One side is in real life, cameras weigh a lot. So we're very accustomed to seeing the acceleration and deceleration of how cameras move, and we got to get that right in order for things to feel good. So let's just call that truth, because that's all the TV's movies we've seen. So the next bit is how do you get that? And these aren't lerps. And this is where I'm going to hand it over to Gerald to explain that damping the weight, the how the camera rotates and moves with that buttery feel was non-trivial. Hugh Gerald.
Yeah, like we just like I'm not going to spill the secret sauce, but yeah, it's effectively just understanding that there's an inertia, and then there's a momentum that has to be overcome to kind of start and then stop the camera itself, and that should kind of be manifest and kind of part of every part of this, because like the fluid head has its own like stiction and inertia. The camera motion itself has your arms, your body, the actual pedestal and plate that kind of drive it. So much time is spent going down the wrong rabbit holes and not getting it to feel right. And then all those failures led to us understanding better what doesn't work until we arrive at a thing that does work. Like it's a lot of trial and error, because it's not just a mechanical thing, like a computer algorithm just spit out the right answer for this one day. It's a very squishy, artistic thing that you have to account for.
And sometimes the best technical approach just doesn't feel right. Like it just doesn't feel like a real camera operator. And I mean, if you're just tuning in or weren't at the start of the show when we talked about it, like Gerald and I have been building camera systems for a long time. We've made a lot of mistakes. We've tried a lot of things that haven't worked out. A lot of the like, oh, that's got to be the way to do it, turned out to just not feel right in some weird way that was like, this shouldn't work, but it just does somehow. So we're going to go with it. There's a lot of that in there, and that's just what experience, you find that yourself on your
And
projects,
like
right? It's
a
the
lot,
best
a lot of that,
no, go for it.
a lot of those interpolations aren't linear. Like when you think about things like focal length is not a linear thing. Like you can't interpolate a 30 millimeter to 1,000 millimeter lens linearly. It's not going to behave like how you think. And like
For
that,
anyone,
that's just like a peak of the weirdness that we have to solve.
yeah, like doubling down on what Gerald said, if you've worked with cameras, the difference between a 20 and a 30 mil lens is a lot. The difference between a 200 and a 210 millimeter lens isn't that much. So it's not a linear scale. And to look at like this is a little preview of like that math here, but here, I'm damping following this car. I can hit the brakes. Feel how that just like butter lands on the
Settles in.
car. And this
And
is
it's
really
totally controllable, and like it's easy to intuit what values you need to get the kind of reaction from the camera you want. And once you actually couple that with like some gameplay state or physics, you can start to like getting really dynamic things. You like ramp up the damping when you get really slow and tighten it up when something really fast is going to happen to get the camera reaction you want.
so this is 80% less damping on it right now. The camera actually kind of catches up so quickly you sort of can't see it. There's just a little bit there. Let me turn the look ahead down.
This is just for the look at, not the follow, just to be clear. We didn't see that.
I'm just going to turn the velocity look ahead down. So yeah, that blend math, there's a lot of mojo there. And this is the bit
Chat GPT would not give you the right answer if you asked it.
we want you to start standing on all of this stuff, because the depths and the amount of like intricacy here is staggering once you actually really get into it. So I mean, I always feel it's a very complex emotion that I feel when someone's like, oh, that's cool, I'm going to write my own camera solution for a game. It's like, awesome. Do you know how big that is? Like we started, if we knew how big it was when we started, we probably wouldn't be here right now. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Like it's massive.
And you also have to think about where you want to put your time. Would you want rather have fun exploring and maybe finding that happy little accident, or do you want to like go into the turmoil of matrices and quaternions? And some people might like that because they want to put that notch in their belt. But a lot of people would rather be experimenting and having fun.
And then it's not just the single blend, but it's the order operations of the blend. Like I've got a collision system, I've got user orbit control, I've got the blending happening between all the stuff. Like what order do I do these things in? Oh my gosh, that was a lot. So yes, knock yourself out, figure that out, or build a great game and stand on top of all this stuff because we have spent most of our lives working on it.
Well, and I was gonna say it really does show though, right? Like looking at all these tools and what you can do with them and how seamlessly they work, like you can see the years of trying to do similar things and this kind of all coming together into a single package. I have a question here that's gonna almost be two part. One here is we have a lot of people asking to see behind the hood. They want to see under the hood. They want to see, what are the secret sauce. And you even said that earlier. You didn't want to go too much into the secret sauce. What is exposed for folks? How deep can they dig into this, and how much of it is kind of behind the scenes? And with that, is this kind of meant to be for folks who are trying to do that kind of like beginner to intermediate end of, or beginning of expert level of control, or is this for like anybody, even somebody who wants to get in and start adjusting like decimals of a decimal sort of thing on the back end? A lot
I
I
mean,
threw
we
at you.
both sides. Like, yeah, it's a good question. And there's a couple of different answers. Like, we're literally shipping AAA games with this now. The NBA, the one just came out. There's two others we can't talk about because they're in dev, but they're like major titles. Um, all the
Plenty
way
more
down
that
to
we don't know because like people will just buy licenses off Fab and well, we may never even talk to them. Like there's so many
Right.
people out there we don't know.
and then there's stuff for like cinematics where people are like, okay, I get it, but we actually do want to keyframe everything after, but we're using black eye to like try it shot ideas. And the director's like, shoot it from the top, try it from the side. Let's start with a wide first and then go to the telephoto. And you like rough it all in using our stuff. And then you're like, that's a pretty good edit. Now let's bake it all down. We've got a button that bakes it all down so you can just bake your cameras
Mm.
down. And then the hardcore layout people who like really want to get nudgy with keyframes, knock yourselves out. Do that and just use black eye for like trying stuff out at the start. Um, did that answer, Dan, your question?
So
And
I want to add a bit more to that too. So you talk about the guys who want to like crack open the hood and see absolutely everything. I mean, as with all Fab plugins, Source is included. So if you need to make customizations or integrate it to a custom version of UE or your project, you are free to. That's your right. Um, we had to we The flip side is in terms of like property exposure. Adam and I have an emoji in our Slack. It's the airplane cockpit from Airplane that's endlessly scrolling. And anytime we talk about new functionality or exposing something, we have to do a check against ourselves. Like, are we making this a more complicated thing to use
Mm,
as well as more powerful? And like, it has to pass that test before we want to expose it.
simple
right.
is really hard. Complex is super easy. In some of our previous camera systems, we've been like, cool new feature, add it to the UI. And then it's like, it looks like you're on the Concorde, right? Like it's just too many knobs and switches. So to
Mm.
build a system that's like agnostic to lots of different things with the least amount of presented controls that do the most stuff has been a challenge that we are doing our best on.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you brought up that other point too about baking things out, because we did have a question here, which is, does it have a bake out that will bake it down the keys and strip out the black eye components? I ask because I often have to do that and rip everything else out for final and in other DCCs.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'll cover that one, Adam. So we have the ability to write out the final transforms and properties of a black eye camera to a cine camera. And then using take recorder, it'll just write all that, and then all your keys will kind of just propagate to that final cine camera actor at the end. And that's
Great.
the best way we found.
Some of our pals are doing blocking and layout in UE, export our cameras, do final animations elsewhere, and then bring the whole party back into UE for the rest.
Yeah. A couple of questions here, specifically with the idea of gameplay being the focus on this. I'm going to try to throw or kind of summarize a few of these different points into one just kind of general question. Basically, the gist of it is, for gameplay, control is key, right? Like making sure the player feels like they're in control. you're not taking anything away from them. There are areas where that kind of fluidity can be kind of fudged a little bit. An example I'll use is like GTA. GTA is an animation-driven movement system where the animation is a little bit more influenced rather than the actual control of the player, but it still feels pretty good, right? Like that's the whole thing. And I can't even imagine how much work went into trying to make that feel as good as it is while also keeping the animation smooth. How do you recommend folks do similar things with these sorts of cameras? What is the line between allowing that dampening and overlap and follow through while also making sure that the player feels like they're in control of the camera?
Great question. So for one, we don't have an opinion on what you should do for your game. We let you go from complete control to fully locked out, and then a bunch of controls for how you want to dampen and control it in the middle. We've actually got a number of like, what's the recenter time? What's the recentering speed? What's the control input damping? So you can go, that's a spectrum, and you can put that anywhere you want. And I actually think the best games move that around. So sometimes you got full control, and like you saw in the earlier demo, you want the user to see something, you kind of nudge it over. Sometimes you got a cutscene and you still have got a little bit of control. Like that's a thing that we want to give the controls to the camera and game designers so they can adjust that in really sophisticated ways that make the most sense at that beat of the experience.
I think like specifically like the gameplay modifiers where we added can allow people to connect the dots from like an animation based state system and read out those values, modify the parameters of the black eye camera that makes sense and give them the look and feel that they as well. So it's deeper than just setting static properties. It's like I'm modifying it in real time based off like what's happening in the animation, the locomotion.
So here's an example. You got your default orbit camera, and then Gears of War, the roadie run. The camera gets lower, it gets closer, it gets to a really wide angle lens. They put some handheld on it. So you just take the default camera and you copy it, you make it go closer and wider, you limit the input controls, and you put a tag on the animation that broadcasts to the black eye. Black eye camera's listening, you set the blends, boom, you've got a roadie run camera in 5 minutes. Like that's why we built the system to be is configurable. And then you can go blue in the face and trying out, does a lot of control feel good? Does very little control feel good? I mean, we don't know the answer to that. That's going to be for you to determine.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you saying that. Like we don't want to tell you how to make your game, right? Like this is kind of going back to what we were saying with like try things out and see how they feel. I think a general rule of thumb is like allow the fluidity where precision isn't as important, but when precision is important, even though it might not look the smoothest, rigidity will feel the best. So an example I could think of is if like you're in a kind of a cinematic third person game, you can have that camera kind of a little bit far back. It can have a little bit more movement as you do that sort of thing. But then if you bring out a gun and you start aiming down sights, that should come in and then be pretty locked in on where you're aiming so that way you're not over or underdoing. And like there's a lot of controls there. Like acceleration exists for a reason. That essentially is dampening and things like that. There's a lot of different keys there. But then on that same thing is also exposing that to the player to control is nice too. Like let them control how much of that dampening they have in there. If they like it, they can amp it up. If they absolutely hate it, they can pull it out, like motion blur, right? Some people really don't like motion blur. Other people don't mind it so much. Give control so that they can use that.
So Dan, that's a really good point. John and I are working on a game right now where we're building it for different levels of user, and we're configuring that through the front end. So if you're a pro, or I can't remember what they called it, but like I know what I'm doing in video games, you've got full orbit control. It's really snappy. It's almost brittle, super responsive. Down to you're just starting out, and the camera will actually follow the player more, so you don't have to like actively free look to see what's in front of you. Now, if you give that active free look to a beginner, they're going to get all goofed up. The camera's going to be pointing somewhere weird. They won't even like we've filmed people not even touching the camera orbit stick on something. They don't even go there. But if you give that one to the pro, they're going to scream bloody murder, right? So that's the spectrum. Give the tools to so people can do what they want with it. And exposing the front end's cool.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, I got a few more questions here. One of them, a couple of these are probably could do pretty rapid fire. Is there a canted angle horror style Steadicam to work like something in American Horror Story?
Yeah, so Dutch, it's the tilt, the roll on the camera. We expose that, and then all of the rotations and everything for the rig still are appropriate. You
And
can
if you
set.
want to go back to the demo and just show Dutch on the car, like this is going to look really weird, but it just shows you how easy it is.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
just
here's Dutch, and here we
So
go,
all
and
the screen
everything.
space composition, it'll actually rotate, relative to the Dutch as well too, based off your damping.
So this is a really
So
good
you
point.
could keyframe that to like, do like a really weird thing, or you could drive it based off gameplay too.
In most, I think almost all camera rigs, the roll is just a roll on the camera, but we're actually rolling and it's still looking through the lens, building on what Gerald's saying, it's still framing appropriately. So it's not like you're just doing a roll and then all your math breaks. Like we've rolled and the camera is still figuring out that shot based on the Dutch roll, which
yeah.
is means you can do crazy stuff and it doesn't break. I mean, I can probably break it if I go too far.
Well, if you turn off lock to horizon, you can get upside down really easy.
I mean,
But you
so
flip the camera upside down, flip it all the way upside down.
Anybody gets
I'm,
motion sickness, brace yourselves.
I don't know where we are right now. Like this is ridiculous, right? But like, yeah, I mean, kind of fun, but like it's still doing like all the math is still lining up, which is just pretty
And
crazy. Upside
and that's
down.
another example of like a feature that I would say, experiment with, but also allow folks to be able to control. In a car camera like this that has to also be really disorienting because your left is your right now, right?
We're in Australia now.
Like let's put a ton of look at this. We're gonna put a ton of velocity look ahead on it. So now the camera's gonna like be, I don't know which way I'm even driving. It's composing appropriately in front based on what's happening, even though we're upset. Like
Yeah.
the math works until it doesn't.
I mean,
But
anyone
it
who's
does.
ever worked with quaternions and Euler angles, knowing that as soon as up is no longer up is just nightmare scenario and nightmare fuel. Getting this to play nice where the camera's up is just who knows where the heck it is it's not only an achievement, it was also why I lost a lot of hair the last 12 months.
I was gonna say the fact that this just works is again
Yeah.
amazing. It's a testament to the tool. But even doing something like that, right? That like that subtle Dutch, depending on what's happening with the camera, like we'll use the racing car as an example. It could be one of those things where you want to allow very subtle tilt as
Totally.
like you bank, right? Like so it's kind of like leaning into
Yeah,
that
you want to
with it.
totally.
Again, it's very important that you allow folks to be able to control this because the more that you mess with that camera, the more likely you are to start getting into motion sickness sorts of territory. But allow it for folks that want it, and then obviously give the people who don't the tools to remove it.
There's that little bit of Dutch, and you're right. And it's fun. Um, just, I mean, and for super giggles, I'm gonna lock. It is locked. Okay. Um, yeah. So this way, when the car spins over, the camera will spin over too. Um, yeah, we've tried to expose all of those controls so people can get goofy with. Yeah.
Oh,
So
That's
I
a
mean,
bad gamble situation, but it recovered.
but it recovered.
yeah. So there are places where you can make it freak out, right? Like, of course it is. Like this is, you can gimbal lock some stuff, and it can get kind of crazy. But we try to keep controls to avoid that, or you just do a thing like where if it gets nuts, you just blend or cut to another camera, right? Like the system, you might not be able to fix every crazy situation, but we give you the tools to patch and to swerve them.
Like if you know your car is gonna roll over, you probably don't want to follow camera that's upside down flipping in the world. You probably want to like move to something that has a better view of the situation.
Yeah, I have a few more questions here that I'll throw at you while we have the editor up because they might be easy to show off. An example here is what tools are there to control focus, distance, plane, and pull focus?
Yeah, awesome. So they're here. So we've got a focus distance. So whatever you're looking at, we automatically set that distance into the depth of field and all the render settings so you get appropriate focus. We've got a little cheater here, and this lets you go either side. And the reason why is like if you're targeting a character, the head bone, if you're doing critical focus, the head bone is further inside the head than the face. So you might need to cheat that focus forward or back a little bit. And then if you want to do something really crazy, we've got the ability to even just set another thing be where it's focusing. So that's a case where you might like want to focus on the back character, or you might want to make a handle and something that you keyframe if you want to get really controlled about it. So you can like manually keyframe the focus by keyframing an object. So yeah, you've got full controls there for biasing either side, automatically tracking something, or focusing on something else entirely as an object.
Or just disabling it and doing your own calculations or manual keyframes if you really want to.
Yep. This is another example of something that I think we've kind of loosely touched on, but just answered explicitly is, do you have any camera systems that can emulate a security camera tracking, like dynamically following someone sneaking around corners?
Oh,
we got to load up the other demo because there's actually a security camera we didn't show.
In the demo project that's included, there's a security camera demo, and the gist of it is, instead of blending to that camera, we cut. So there's a blend data asset that lets you define how every camera relates to every camera, and it has wildcards. So you can just say, anytime this camera gets called, I want to do a cut or a blend or whatever. So in the security camera example in the demo that's included in Black Eye, it automatically cuts to this black and white camera that's in the world. You can set that up to track or do whatever you want.
Yeah. Another one is, can I change the lens or have access to all of these settings? Thresholds are essential, but settings exposed or editable, so we could set our own thresholds.
Of course. So the way we handle lens is a good point. We handle the FOV. You can manually set it. You can automatically set that by keeping things composed. We call it subject screen size. So like, I want this framing on whatever, and it'll automatically zoom. In terms of like all the crazy, lovely, amazing post-process stuff, Black Eye isn't a different camera. At the end of the day, we're still an Unreal camera. So whatever plugins or whatever stuff you're doing in post, it all works. We're just pushing the FOV.
Yeah, it's a Cine camera components that's driving the rendering at the end of the day. So everything in there is fair game. Like just reiterating what Adam said, we set the focal length / FOV and the transform and the depth. That's where the focus distance in the post processing. If you elect to have that set, the rest is fair game. Do what you need to do. Set what you need to set.
Yep.
Awesome. If anybody else has any questions they'd like to ask the team, throw them in the chat now. We're down to the last couple of questions in the last few minutes. So if you have any additional questions, throw them in there real quick. One of them, a couple of these here are again, kind of more like philosophical things, but like as someone just getting into camera work in this way, do you have any professional recommendations for them on how to best start using your product?
Best start using our product, and we have a YouTube channel. We've got a bunch of tutorials there. The 2.0 ones are coming soon, starting next week. We've been heads down just building the thing. The next to come is our tutorials. The version 1 tutorials, there's a lot that's the same, so you can start there. So I'd say go to our YouTube channel. Overall,
I think like Adam has like a 1-hour video, and it's like there's different chapters and sections for every kind of camera you could conceivably want. So you just like jump to that chapter. This is how we'd set it up, and this is how you should think about it. Kind of.
There's a YouTube channel called Reframe a Picture. This has got nothing to do with Black Eye, but it's an incredible cinematic resource. They break down like shots and dialogue scenes, and famous DPs talk about stuff, and that's a really great resource. Every frame a picture is a really great resource for just cinematography chops.
That's actually perfect. The next question we had here was also, how extensive is the learning / demo setup for understanding the full cinematic workflow?
Yeah. So if you look at our version 1 walkthrough, I start at 0 and we go all the way up to doing fun, more complicated things. We'll do a version of that for version 2 where we show the panel more and our new workflows. The first one isn't invalid with version 2. It's just that we streamlined it. Like you'll see that, I'm jumping around a menu a lot more, a details panel a lot more than with our new panel. So subscribe to our YouTube channel and then you'll see the videos when they come.
Perfect. This is kind of dovetailing back into something we talked about a little bit before, but considering that you don't have the noise built in for your plugin, they asked how you do handle camera shakes, and I assume just the Unreal
Yep.
option,
Yeah,
right?
it's just the same way as vanilla UE camera actors. Like you just slide it in on the sequence, or you add the component / actors to the world, and it'll handle it all for you.
Yeah. There's some great plugins on Fab too with camera noise, like real camera shakes, and they work. They're fun.
Awesome. Well, we're down to the last two that we have so far.
Right.
One of them is pretty straightforward. How do people get Black Eye?
Go to fab.com, type in Black Eye.
And I'll post the link to the listing here in the two chats for folks who would like to check this out. I can already tell you I'm going to. That is very again, I mentioned it before, but I'm working on a project that have been playing a lot with different cameras, and there's a lot of things that I've been struggling to do that button click here. So I think that's going to save me a lot of time, which is great. I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, join our
to
Discord. Check it out. I'd love to see what you come up with using Black Eye, and anyone else who picks it up. We have a thriving community, and we love to see people working.
Yeah, let me double down on that. Our Discord's great. People come and they're like, I want to do this. How do I do it? We'll help you. We'll like join our Discord. Ask us anything.
Is that linked on the Fab page?
It is.
Under on Fab page, it's community.
Great. I will throw that in the chat as well for folks who would like to check it out.
Wicked.
The last question is a variation on a question we've had for on Inside Unreal a long time, and that is, if you could give yourself advice or anybody using your tools advice, you go back in time, be like, hey, when tackling this project, be aware of this XYZ, or hey, folks, you're getting into this thing. Here's a particular tool or an aspect or something I want you to really be aware of. What would it be? It's almost a two-part question, but curious your thoughts on those.
I were to talk to old me and give him some advice about like procedural camera systems, is make sure you remember what coordinate systems you're in all the time and how you translate between them. Because when you do the wrong thing in the wrong coordinate system, your cameras will not be happy. The amount of times I fall in that trap, even to this day, is pretty high.
I think the what ifs, like give yourself the time to try out crazy ideas. And that's a big part of why we built this thing. Because, and like, don't be afraid of failure. Like, even when it doesn't work, you're going to learn something. Like, it doesn't work every time. Almost all of our best ideas were not the first idea out of the gate. So just like keep messing around and you're going to find the magic. Short iteration times, wild ideas, and the safety. Like, make sure you feel safe enough to just try goofy stuff, because that's where you're going to find the good things.
Yeah, kind of a philosophical thing to kind of add to what Adam says. Like, if you come up against what seems like an impenetrable wall or an obstacle, it might be a golden opportunity lying in wait. For example, like there was a severe gimbal issue in early days 2.0 that I thought I'd have to re-architect around, but I found a way to embrace that problem, and it actually ended up being a better solution than having to write a workaround for gimbal lock. And try to embrace the problem. Don't try to work around it.
Yeah, like drilling through that problem. On the other side, there's going to be a lot less people, a lot less stuff, because you had to work through that thing. I mean, knowing what battles to pick is also very challenging, but like just sticking to your guns and pushing through and fighting the good fight, because the other side's be pretty sunny.
Yeah. And we touched on it several times during this show, but I just want to emphasize it one last time, which is like, don't be afraid to experiment, right? Especially if you have a tool like this that makes that simple, right? Like, time is money. that's honestly the biggest resource when it comes to any project. Is just like how much time do you have to put into it. And sometimes experimenting can be a very time consuming thing, right? But if you have the means for something like this, where it's like, no, I'm saving a lot of time on the the back end by having this kind of thing, then experiment, because you'll never know what happy accidents you'll stumble upon. Like some of the best creative decisions I've ever made weren't decisions; they were something I stumbled upon, and I was like, oh, actually, this is amazing, and I really like this, and then I ran with it.
Dan, I'd upgrade that sum to like a lot of
Yeah,
that
yeah.
stuff wasn't what came out of the gate doing.
Yeah. I mean, just the project I'm working on right now, like the inception of it is very different from where it is now, and where it is now will be very different from where it is when it's finished, just because that's the process, right? And you get in there, I start playing around with things. I'm like, oh, you know what? What if I do this? Oh, it didn't work. But what if I do that? Oh, that's better, right? That kind of experimentation is key. It's where you quote unquote find the fun, if we're talking strictly gameplay, centric.
There's that film saying where you make your film three times, once when you write it, the next when you shoot it, the next when you edit it.
In
And
the
I
edit.
wonder, like, what's the game version of that, right? Like there's a game
Oh man.
version
Yeah.
of that.
It might just be once in the prototype, once in the alpha, once in the beta, and then
And
once in
like
the final
probably,
release.
you reimagine it 3 times in final, man. That's how it
Right? Yeah, yeah,
goes.
absolutely. But yeah, embrace the hiccups, right? In a lot
Mhm.
of cases, you're gonna
Yeah.
get a hiccup, and you're like, "There's nothing good about this. I should get rid of it." But sometimes there are hidden gems in those hiccups.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Well, I want to thank you both so much for one, taking the time to come on here and show off these tools, but more so from just a completely selfish point, for making them. Because it's something we talked about a little bit early, again, kind of in the meetings beforehand, but like being able to consolidate, X number of years, it's in the, double digits years of experience into a tool, means that folks don't have to then also put that amount of time in it themselves to achieve a similar goal. And selfishly, I just think the tool is really dang cool. So I appreciate you guys for making it. I think this is awesome. And
Thanks so
I
much.
even said
Thank you,
it
Dan.
too early on. I told them, I was like, I'm honestly excited to see this presentation, because I'm familiar with 1.0, and I know there's been a lot of stuff in 2.0, but I wasn't aware of what they all are going to be. So this was also very fun from my perspective as well. So,
I understand. It's been super
well,
fun. And
thank
thanks
you
everyone.
again. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, no.
It
So yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show. We're just gonna keep talking over each other. I'm gonna stop. Go ahead, say your thing.
I was just saying thanks to everyone who showed up. Like we really
Yes.
appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for your
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
No, and I'm gonna second that and say thank you to everyone for joining us today. Thank you for our wonderful guests for being a part of the show. And again, thank you, a huge thank you to everybody who tuned in. The show is not what it is, or it would not be what it is, excuse me, without you, your time, your questions, and your participation. And if any of you came through partway through the show and would like to go back and rewatch, no worries. We post all of our sessions in VOD format on both our Twitch and YouTube channel. You can also keep up with all the latest news, shoutouts, and other cool information on our socials at Unreal Engine. And if you haven't already, please come join us at the Epic Developer Community, where we have our documentation, tutorials from both the community and Epic staff alike, the forums, and much more. But with that, again, a huge thank you to you folks for coming on today, and for everyone watching. Keep an eye out next week. We're finalizing everything right now, but we might end up actually having 2 sessions of Inside Unreal next week. So stay tuned. If that happens, it'll be on Tuesday. So keep your eyes peeled. We'll have the scheduled live stream on YouTube once we have that confirmed. But again, thank you folks so much for doing this, for coming on, and we'll talk to everybody later. Bye, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks so much, everyone.